We'll bring you updates from the spring meetings in Washington, D.C.
Also, Opposition National Democratic Congress expresses disappointment over unavailability of Inspector General of Police to receive petition on Agric Minister and Abetifi Member of Parliament Brian Acheampong's will not hand over comments.
Also ahead tonight, 6 persons arrested for attacking police at Kumewu in the Ashanti region granted 10,000 cedi bail, each with one surety.
In business, Chamber of Corporate Trustees says it will take a while for rebound of confidence in the bonds market for program.
And elsewhere on the foreign front, Nigeria's ruling All Progressive Congress Party, APC, seeks dismissal of Labour Party Peter Obi's election challenge. We've got details of all these stories plus many more coming up in the next 60 minutes. Remember, we're streaming live on Facebook. We're also live on your DSTV channel 279. You can join us with your views, comments and suggestions on any of our top stories this hour. Feel free to visit any of our social media pages, Facebook or Twitter, and post a comment.
Well, starting off with one of the trending stories of this week, the Opposition National Democratic Congress were at the police headquarters to present a petition to the Inspector General of Police over the Agric Minister and Abetifi Member of Parliament Brian Acheampong's will not hand over power comments. Now, although the team was successful at presenting the petition, they are accusing the Inspector General of Police of evading their petition. My colleague Noble Crosby-Annan has the rest of the story.
Call it political communication gone sour or a case of unbridled enthusiasm at a political rally. The Director of Legal of the NDC, Abraham Amaliba, together with some other lawyers, have presented a petition to the CID boss, Madam Faustina Ajewa Kodria Ando, demanding the arrest of Food and Agriculture Minister Brian Acheampong.
His comments on that day border on 1, national security, and 2, an affront to the Constitution. And as lawyers, we think that the police administration must be interested in this matter. The CID boss indicated to us his appreciation of what we have done, and she was of the view that she would take the necessary steps, having received the petition.
The presentation of the petition to the CID was uneventful, but then a copy had to be presented to the Inspector General of Police. The NDC puts it, the IGP evaded receiving the petition.
We actually saw him standing at the car park with some officers. We couldn't go to him directly. We had to go through the reception. And so when we got to the reception, we were told to come to the outer reception, which we did. Now, at the outer reception, we were told that the IGP wasn't there. It's a clear indication of an IGP who was clearly evading our document.
According to them, they are confident of a swift investigation and handling of the matter based on a precedent.
The police administration, not long ago, gave a clear indication that they were not going to tolerate such comments, particularly when the youth organizer of SWAMI, the NDC youth organizer, was arrested. What we are doing is not derogating from that. What we are doing is furthering what the police has already started doing. And so we are confident.
The Director of Legal of the NDC says he will provide the police with some reasonable timelines to work on the matter, fellow of which the NDC will be compelled to take other steps to getting this issue resolved.
There's always the reasonable time period. We are not about to tell the police how to do their work. We'll give them a certain reasonable time. Failure to act on it, we will now take the next step. Let everybody know in this country that the police administration is beginning to be choosy and the police administration is beginning to be biased.
Well, according to the NDC, they will see this matter to its logical conclusion. From the CID headquarters, Noble Crosby-Annan.
Now, if you call yourself an honorable person, then you need to act as one. These are the words of the chairman of the Peace Council, Reverend Dr. Ernest Edu Gyamfi, in his reaction to comments by Agricultural Minister and Abetifi Member of Parliament, Brian Acheampong, that the ruling New Patriotic Party will not hand over power to the opposition National Democratic Congress. The council is to summon all players in the political space by the end of the month on an intemperate language guideline.
The comments by the Agric Minister and Abetifi Member of Parliament, Brian Acheampong, has been met with varied views in the last few days. Many have condemned his comment, which they say has the tendency to fester chaos as the country prepares for the 2024 polls. According to the Peace Council, such utterances should be avoided.
And it's not helping us. You know, sometimes some of these things come as a reaction to what some other people have said. But because it's current, you are likely to forget the others. But for the Peace Council, we are compiling all of those. And we want to place it before all of them. That, look, these are the things you guys are saying. We all sat here and agreed that we need to be careful. And if all of us have agreed on those things, we expect all players to be mindful of what we have said and abide by those things so that we don't go out making statements that incite the public against the country. For as far as my capacity is concerned, if I call myself an honorable person, then I need to be careful with what I say and how I say it.
Reverend Edu Gyamfi says the council has introduced a guideline for the use of intemperate language among political parties for proper dialogue.
We launched the guide on intemperate language, hoping that it will guide us not only in terms of political space, but also even in the media, how people speak and what they say and how they say it. Subsequently, we've seen and had various footages of statements made by political actors from all the political divide, which is not in the best interest of the country. And so we want to use the opportunity we have now to appeal to them that just as we had a discussion here, we expect them to abide by the decisions we took.
He is of the view mediation is key in resolving such issues.
Ours is mediation, and so we do that as much as possible. We bring them, and we think that when you appeal to the conscience of people, it makes much more sense. For instance, right now everybody is expecting you go have to condemn this. Condemnation doesn't solve any problem, but we appeal to the conscience of people. Is it right in your capacity as a gentleman to make this or that statement?
The council will, by the end of this month, meet with all parties.
Let's now go to the Ashanti region, where counsel for the 6 persons accused of assault on a police officer say their clients only committed a misdemeanor and want charges and the treatment of the case to reflect that. The 6 suspects appeared before an Ifidiase District Court on Tuesday and have been charged on 3 counts. My colleague William Evans-Hinkum sat through proceedings.
6 out of 7 accused persons currently standing trial for assault on a police officer will have to meet a bail condition of 10,000 with a surety to be able to walk freely temporarily, because on the 28th of April they will reappear in court. They were charged with 1, conspiracy to commit crime contrary to Section 23, Clause 1 of the Criminal and Other Offences Act 1960. Assault on public officer, which is contrary to Section 205A of the Criminal and Other Offences Act 1960. The last charge, duty to prevent a felony. Owusu Michael, Thomas Kusi, Yao Boateng, Edward Boateng, Evans Ado, Emmanuel Mensah, Felix Boateng.
Despite the fact that all offences are bailable, it's subject to the discretion of the court. So the state said that investigations are ongoing, and for that matter, the court should refuse the grant of bail, which we are also of the prayer that bail shouldn't be refused just because the state is not done with their investigations.
Yaofori is currently at large. William Evansinkum, TV3 News, Efficacy.
A reminder, you're still watching News 360. This is our major news bulletin for the day. And as you may be aware, the spring meetings of the World Bank and IMF have taken off in Washington, and already Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta has been engaging Ghana's external creditors at the sidelines of the ongoing spring meetings as he hopes to secure the needed financing assurances to get the all-important IMF board approval. Our reporter Sani Abdul Rahman is there. He'll be joining us shortly for the very latest updates on the spring meetings of the World Bank and the IMF. But let's hop onto Zoom right now. Professor Godfred Bokpin is a professor of finance at the University of Ghana. Thank you very much, sir, for your time, and good to have you on News 360. We appear to have fulfilled basically all the domestic requirements for this bailout program. With the assurances given by the Paris Club, China, and other external creditors. How close are we to securing this bailout from the International Monetary Fund?
Okay, all right. Good evening, and thank you for having me on your program. And good evening to cherished viewers. Yes, yes, of course. In terms of a good number of the prior actions, in terms of restructuring domestic debt, utility price adjustment, publication of COVID-19, and a number of them, yes, we have made significant progress. But I think what is outstanding, and which is even more critical amongst all the prior actions, is the assurance from Ghana's bilateral and multilateral partners that they will commit to help the country close the funding gap. And the reason this is critical, in addition to all the other prior actions that we have made, is that Ghana has lost market access. We cannot go to the Eurobond market and go and borrow. We've also lost market access in the domestic market. And yet we have a huge funding gap where in the 2023 budget alone, we are looking at a fiscal gap of more than $5 billion. That is just for 2023. Then if you look through the estimates for the medium term up to 2026, 24, 25, 26, you realize that it's latent with a huge fiscal gap. Now, because we've lost market access, the IMF knows very well that approving the program with this huge funding gap, the program can only achieve limited effectiveness. Now, how do you solve that? To solve that, the IMF is now insisting that Ghana must secure funding assurance from our bilateral and multilateral, particularly in terms of bilateral. We are looking at Paris and then non-Paris club creditors, including China and the others, that they will help the country to close the funding gap. Government itself, in the 2023 budget, has indicated that they would resort to concessionary funding in closing the funding gap in the 2023 budget. To that extent, securing the assurance from our bilateral and multilateral creditors would then be fundamental to re-securing an IMF program. The funding assurance could come in the form of debt relief, in which case, in terms of both principal and interest payment that would have gone to those member countries, will now be available for the country to use in financing the gap, or fresh funding. So either the bilateral, multilateral countries, and we know that the multilateral institutions, including the World Bank, the IMF, they are saying that their debt is not up for restructuring, and therefore we have to look at bilateral. So bilateral then becomes very, very important. So in terms of the external, we are looking at external bilateral and then external commercial. External commercial, you are talking about Eurobonds, where we owe in excess of $13 billion. That process has not gone as fast as we saw with the domestic debt exchange. Then when it comes to the external bilateral, we are asking for funding assurance from them, either in the form of debt relief or fresh funding. That is where the challenge is. And we've seen how the global geopolitics and geoeconomic fragmentation is playing out in China's coming on board or wanting to deal separately with countries that are indebted to them. because the reason is that all these things are coming out because of also the global geopolitics in the new scramble for Africa, because whoever you owe owns you largely. Okay, so like the way Bible says that just as a slave is a servant to the master, so is a borrower a servant to the lender. And over the years, in fact, right through 1844, through the partition of Africa and all of that, you could see in how it has metamorphosed into modern day colonization through debt and trade diplomacy, which China is also using significantly on the continent.
Right,
so the idea is that
right, Prof. Boakwin. I've got two final questions for you before I let go of you. First of all, we're initially assured by the President and the Finance Minister himself of a March deadline. That appears to have eluded us.
Yes.
How soon do you see this becoming a reality?
I think that, of course, there were uncontrollable variables, and that is why we missed, particularly with the assurance that the IMF needed, that we needed to produce that written assurance from our external bilateral partners. But practically, this week is a critical week for Ghana, because all the partners, multilateral, bilateral, are all converging in Washington for the spring meeting. And therefore, we expect that by the close of this week, there will be a lot of clarity in terms of the timeline or the roadmap for Ghana getting the program. But from where I sit and the little that I know, it's going to be a bit difficult to even get it by the end of this month. Probably we should be looking at middle of May, or probably if things work for our good. But what is playing out, which I think the West needs to take cognizance of, is the fact that the global geopolitics is affecting vulnerable countries like Ghana. And therefore, the earlier they put their differences to bear and give Ghana a program, the better.
And talking about global geopolitics and its impact on especially developing countries, yesterday we heard from the Managing Director of the International Monetary Fund, Kristalina Georgieva, talk about the fact that global growth was going to slow down to as low as 3%. I mean, she talks about the exacerbating effect of inflation and how central banks all over the world would have to fight inflation by increasing the policy rate. Now, why do I fear, for instance, that, the difficulties that we're currently experiencing in Ghana is not going to go away anytime soon?
No, not at all. The IMF is actually forecasting a much slower growth for Ghana in 2023 compared to what government own projection was in the 2023 budget. Government was hoping that growth would decelerate to 2.8% this year. The IMF is telling us it's going to be lower than 2%. The World Bank is also telling us it's going to be lower than the 2.8% government had forecasted. So that tells you that this year has so much difficulty, and particularly because global shocks and tightening of the global financial market is going to weigh heavily on vulnerable countries like Ghana. And therefore, in terms of the impact, and you will see that while the IMF is talking about certain energy prices, food prices, in the case of Ghana, we might have also benefited from rising energy prices because we export oil. But whilst the fund and globally, they are talking about inflation around 16% to 20%. Ghana's inflation end of February was actually 52.8%. That tells you that Ghana's particular case is much more precarious than other countries. And therefore, there's the need for us to, for the fund to actually fast track our program, because the more it delays, the more the vulnerabilities begin to manifest across the microeconomy and beyond even the macro-fiscal impact.
We've seen governments rely heavily on the domestic market, raising quite a lot of money from the T-bills, from the auction of treasury bills. Now, if this deal with the International Monetary Fund continues to delay any further, what are your suspicions?
Well, I think even before the program materializes, the IMF is very clear in terms of monetization of the deficit from Bank of Ghana. Okay, And therefore, and also because of what the domestic debt exchange has done, it has actually wounded confidence in Ghana's financial market, particularly in the capital market. And therefore, the understanding is that it's not going to be that attractive for government to issue fresh bonds. And perhaps any bond that government will issue now, maybe after 2023 or so, has to be a tap-in. In other words, those bonds must have similar characteristics as the new bonds that were issued in exchange for the old bonds. Remember that if you issue new bonds with better characteristics than the new ones that they were issued as part of the domestic debt exchange, then that is going to affect the tradability of those bonds and would affect the banks or financial institutions that hold those bonds. Now, you also see that with the domestic debt exchange, what government was trying to do was to create a new yield curve in the markets, right? And for that to be effective, you need to drag down the treasury bill rate and also bring down the policy rate. Bank of Ghana is unable to bring down the policy rate to align with the new yield curve simply because inflation has stubbornly remained at the top. Okay, and government desire to drag down treasury bill rate is also going to be affected because of the huge funding gap and our loss of access to market, especially from the international capital market.
Right.
So all that is happening, you can see that the variables are not aligned. It's because these are really extraordinary times for us.
Right. Professor Bokpin, I've got to say a big thank you to you. Professor Bokpin is a professor of finance at the University of Ghana Business School. Let's go straight to Washington now. My colleague with the 3 business desks, Sani Abdul Rahman. Sani, earlier in the day, I saw you walking through the corridors of the World Bank in the midst of some Ghanaian officials. I'm just wondering if you've managed to touch the white robes of the finance minister, and what has he been telling you?
Well, the finance minister has been tight-lipped here in Washington, but we've been monitoring his movements. We know he started his day with a meeting with some members of the Paris Club, including China, as the minister and his team try to get the financing assurances which the IMF board is requiring before it would grant the much needed bailouts that the country is seeking. From there, the minister also participated in the G24 intergovernmental meeting. G24, you are aware, is a group that seeks to coordinate the position of developing countries as far as monetary issues and development around the world is concerned. As I speak to you currently, some delegation from Ghana's parliament is in the meeting just behind me, led by the finance chairman of the finance committee, Kiki Kwarteng, presenting a paper on the debt situation in developing countries using Ghana as a case study. So if you ask me in terms of the itinerary of what has been happening today, that's largely what has dominated the sprint meetings. Also in the morning, the World Bank issued the 8 global reports where we saw the bank slashing down its forecast for global growth. And that raised quite important concerns because they are saying that inflation will remain elevated, which means prices of goods and services that ordinary consumers purchase will remain elevated. We know back in Ghana, this is a major problem because inflation is still above 50%. That has led to the Bank of Ghana being hawkish, increasing the policy rates in an attempt to achieve price stability, which has resulted in the cost of borrowing going up, and that is really crippling businesses. So in terms of the itinerary purpose, that's what's been happening here.
Earlier in the day also, you came through with a report about the creditor committee of which China was refusing to chair. What's the very latest on that? And I know also that you've been nosing around the officials of the Ghana delegation. What are they saying about securing a bailout program in the shortest possible time?
Well, China has indicated its commitment to providing whatever support that will help Ghana come out of the storms. Remember, Ghana is an important trade partner of China, but the request for China to co-chair the creditor committee, we are picking that China has subtly declined that offer, but is willing to participate in the conversation and look at how best Ghana's external debt can be restructured to enable the country secure the much needed IMF bailouts. On the part of the Ghana delegation, they have been largely quiet, holding a lot of engagements. We have Director Arkes, who is in charge of debt management. We have Director Dr. Al Hassan, who is in charge of research at the Finance Ministry, also part of the government delegation. We are learning also the newly appointed Minister of Finance at the Ministry of Finance, Dr. Minanta, is also part of the delegation trying to engage and use their network to secure the financing assurance which Ghana needs to come out of this storm. So essentially, the finance minister has indicated that the outcome of the meeting with the creditor committee would be known tomorrow morning. There will be a press briefing where the minister will be highlighting what transpired in the meeting, and that will give the direction as to whether we'll get the much needed board approval in time, or it will transcend yet again another month and will get into June or even July. For that one, we cannot tell.
Sani Abdul Rahman, our man reporting all the way from Washington, D.C. at the sidelines of the spring meetings of the World Bank and the IMF.
Let's now focus on some other stories tonight. The Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwifery Association says migration of health professionals will continue until government enhances the working conditions of healthcare workers. The association was reacting to the red listing of Ghana among some 54 countries from being actively considered for recruitment by health and social care employers by the UK government.
The code, titled Code of Practice Red and Amber List of Countries, states that some developing countries, such as Ghana, should not be targeted when actively recruiting health or care professionals. According to the UK government, the list is based upon the World Health Organization Workforce Support and Safeguard List 2023 and will be updated alongside progress reports on WHO Global Code implementation and reported to the World Health Assembly every 3 years. It will be recalled that in March this year, the WHO included Ghana and 54 other countries on its health workforce support and safeguard list, stating that these countries face the most pressing health workforce challenges related to universal health coverage. Already, the Ghana Medical Association has expressed worry over the alarming level of brain drain situation in the health sector, noting that the situation has worsened lately due to the migration of experienced professionals such as midwives and doctors.
There are several ways in which we can help to ensure that at least these doctors stay within country. We know that a lot of people have left, a lot more people have left. We don't have the numbers, and a lot more are preparing to leave.
This red alert has thus come as an intervention to check the situation, but the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwifery Association has some reservations.
It will not stop migration. Nurses will continue to go to UK. They will continue to go to different parts of the country because it's of the world, because UK is actively not recruiting, but individuals can still apply and be recruited into UK. The main reason why nurses and midwives are leaving the shores of Ghana is because of their conditions of sex. So if government will heed to the plight of the union, the association, to improve on the living conditions of nurses and midwives, I think it will cut down on the migration issue.
According to the association, it's about time government adopts a more robust approach to structure migration.
Currently, they put migration on hold. If you go to the ministry, you are not giving clearance. And we think migration is the right of the Ghanaians. You cannot hold them here in Ghana when you are not satisfying their job satisfaction. So we need to open up the system, do a broader stakeholder consultation, and think about a more robust approach.
Of the 54 countries, 37 are from Africa, with 14 countries from West Africa.
Stay with us here on News 360. We have some business news coming up next.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to demonstrate to you the superior properties of Flamingo paint. As compared to other paint brands on the market, we take equal quantities of Flamingo paint and this ordinary paint. We then dilute them with water. And now, let the test begin. The gentleman on the left is going to apply the ordinary paint, and the gentleman on my right will use the Flamingo superior paint. As you can clearly see, Flamingo has the obvious better hiding. Furthermore, Flamingo has painted a much larger area. You know, one bucket of Flamingo paint is equal to several buckets of any other paint brand on the market. Flamingo paint is made with superior formulation to give superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage. Flamingo paint, simply superior.
The sweet scent of rose in the morning brings me so much joy. Inspired by damask rose and infused with 100% natural rose oil. Introducing new Clay Soft Perfume Beads Washing Powder. It's like bringing a garden with you everywhere with this wonderful perfume. Take a garden with you everywhere you go with Clay Soft Perfume Beads Washing Powder.
This is the breaking news. About 2,500 people 2,500 people have been.
We'll be right back after a commercial break.
When stubborn coughs, colds, and catarrh interrupt your life, get fast relief with Stop Cough. The Stop Cough range is suitable for adults, children, and babies.
In today's breaking news, Alex is back and
there is a Stop Cough for every cough and for everyone.
There surely is.
Ask your pharmacist about the right Stop Cough for you. The Stop Cough range is manufactured and distributed by NS Chemist Limited. This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the FDA.
You need to ask yourself, where do you want to go? No matter who you are, trust yourself. Dream big. Break the rules, not the laws. Keep pushing. Everything is possible. Trust yourself. Life is about confidence. Africa, it's your time.
Sanlam, live with confidence.
The business segment is brought to you by MTN.
Right, welcome to the business news segment here on News 360. Now, the Chamber of Corporate Trustees says confidence in the bonds market will take a while to be restored following the impact of the domestic debt exchange program. Now, according to the Executive Secretary Thomas Eso, government bonds cannot be described as risk-free anymore due to the experiences on investments recently.
The textbooks that we all read told us that sovereign bonds are risk-free, but all over the world we have also experienced some debt exchange programs that have told us that it cannot be totally risk-free, as we all know. So I believe that we will all go to the markets with at the back of our head that even though they will be risk-free, mentioning attached to government bonds, we know that when certain programs like the domestic exchange program that came on, then the bonds cannot be risk-free. So we are all going to invest. Let me say that as investors, we always want to look at the risk-return trajectory to see that if you are taking on a certain risk, how much returns can we get for that risk. And therefore, like I said, we cannot totally and wholly classify government bonds again as risk-free, because the experiences that we have had globally from other countries and Ghana points to that fact again. And therefore, I don't think that you can go to any market and expect that there will be investments or there will be asset classes on the market that are risk-free. I don't think.
Meanwhile, the cedi has in the last 30 days appreciated by 13.95%. According to Director of Business Operations at Dalex Finance, Joe Jackson, the appreciation of the local currency can partially be attributed to the weak performance of the dollar against other major trading currencies. A reminder, you're still watching the Business News segment here on News 360. Now, government has been encouraged to drastically reduce the cost of doing business at the ports as a means of driving back traffic. This follows concerns by the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority about the reduction in ports traffic, which has resulted in significant loss of revenue to the state. Now, speaking in an interview with 3 Business, President of GUTA, Dr. Joseph Obin, said the situation has gone out of hand.
The cost of doing business is very high. It induces more practices that may not help, or simply it will not make your country attractive for business. And that's exactly what we are facing now at the ports. If we are talking about cost of doing business, then we have to prune down the long list of cost of doing business at the port. It's as simple as that. And then the taxes general taxes that we pay in this country, if it is too much, it means that some people cannot simply afford importing goods to come and pay these taxes. I hope you understand. And then these are the major factors. And then finding way to stop the smuggling. These are the major things that government can do to avert the situation, to solve.
Let's return to our earlier story where the cedi has in the last 30 days appreciated by 13.95%. Let's listen to Director of Business Operations at Dalex Finance, Joe Jackson.
For the last 30 days, the dollar has depreciated against the euro, yen and the pound. Joe Jackson believes the cedi is benefiting from the dollar's weak performance against the global currencies.
The dollar has lost 2.18% of its value versus the euro. The euro has appreciated. If you take the yen, and I'm picking very specific stable currency, if you take the yen, in the last 30 days, the yen has appreciated by over 3%. So you have to now ask yourself that maybe the cedi is also benefiting from the global effect. And because our currency is volatile, the effect will be more marked here.
He further attributed the stability of the cedi to reduced imports.
Fuel import, it's so significant. Central bank puts money aside for the oil auction. Now the price of oil has been falling steadily on the international market over the last few months. It means that our importers now require less dollar to buy the oil we need. So that is also an effect that is happening. The constant cry is that there's no money. If I bring it, I can't sell. So importers have dropped what they are importing. When that happens, it means there's more dollars on the market.
In other news, lead researcher at GCB Capital, Courage Buti, is predicting that yields on Treasury bills will gradually begin to fall from the third quarter of the year when the International Monetary Fund deal has eventually been sealed. This follows a marginal increase in interest on Treasury bills last Friday, a situation which has been largely attributed to the increased policy rates. Now, overall, government exceeded its target of about 1.7 billion cedis after recording an oversubscription of over 1.8 billion cedis.
The IMF program will come with other concessional financing options other than what the IMF will be giving us, which will go into financing the budget. So to the extent that that reduces the short-term financing pressure, you can see the Treasury resume rejecting bids like they were doing, which drove down yields. But in the meantime, when liquidity levels are tighter and if the funding needs are still quite high and they have to depend on the T-bill market, then there may be limited scope for them to reject bids and all of that, which drive down the yield. So in the meantime, that trend could continue, but it's not something that will last for a very long time. Ultimately, things will reverse and we can begin to see yield trend down again, probably from the third quarter going.
Well, that's it for the very latest in the world of business. For more business news stories, you know what to do. Just log on to our website. It's www.3news.com. Guess who's standing by? Thierry Nyan for the very latest in sports.
What does money mean to you?
It means convenience. It gives me the ability to do business at my own pace.
It allows me to live my life with ease and enjoy my lifestyle without interruptions.
Security. I can make investments I can trust, and I know exactly where my money is all the time.
Having the flexibility to do what I want to.
The feeling and peace of mind I get knowing I can safely receive remittances from my family and friends from the comfort of my home. Money means safety.
Money means so many things to so many people, but no matter what you use it for or what it may mean to you, money is the one thing that keeps us going and makes our lives a little bit brighter. So what does money mean to you? Just Momo it.
MTN.
Are you tired of struggling with bad financial situations? At Quick Credit, we understand the difficulties that come with transitioning to a better one. That's why we're here to simplify the process for you. With loan facilities from 1,500 cedis upwards, all you have to do is call and we will take care of the rest. All you need is your national ID. No savings, no collateral, no susu, no deposits, and no account opening required. Quick Credit has you covered. Whether you're expanding a business, starting a new one, facing an emergency like school fees or funeral expenses, or even just in need of a salary loan. What are you waiting for? Call Quick Credit today. 0302 200 390 or 059 692 0833. We do not give loans via the internet. Quick Credit is regulated and licensed by the Bank of Ghana. Terms and conditions apply. Quick Credit. Lending made simple.
Welcome back. It's always a pleasure.
I know. It's always a pleasure. Yes.
I mean, to have Thierry here with
I
the
know.
latest in sports.
I know.
Thierry.
Considering all that you guys were talking about off air.
Take it away, Thierry.
Yeah,
kindly.
we're talking about futsal. Futsal football is back again here in Ghana. And of course, it's time for us to bring you the latest in the world of sports right here on News 360. My name is Thierry Nyan. And after a long hiatus, futsal football is set to return to the Ghanaian scene. My colleague Oreku Ampofo was at the launch of the Ghana Futsal Premier League and filed this report.
Did you know that almost 27 years ago, Ghana finished as runners-up at the African Futsal Cup of Nations, losing narrowly to host Egypt in Cairo? Well, since then, the sport has gone into a state of oblivion here in Ghana, but that could change pretty soon with the launch of the Ghana Futsal Premier League. The league will be made of 16 different teams, all from Greater Accra region, but then they will be divided into two zones, the winner from each zone meeting in the finale to determine the winner of the maiden Ghana Futsal Premier League. With the sport being away for so long, there are many impending challenges facing the resumption of the league.
Futsal normally is played on the soft surface, that's a wooden surface. But in Ghana, we have only two halls like that. The Atramani Hall and then the Bukom Arena, which is also crowded. So we decided, I came up with the idea that why don't we play outdoor? Secondly, the balls that we are supposed to use for futsal is different from the normal ball, footballs. So once we opted for the AstroTurf, it means that we have to also come up with something different. So we chose a case for normal football to be used.
Despite the sport being in its budding stage, there is hope that a national team can be developed that will compete at the continental stage.
So in immediate terms, we want to make sure that the futsal league is stable. The futsal league is visible to the people. I mean, beyond this, I mean, you want to look at a successful futsal season, a national league being put, a national team being put together, and hopefully competing on the African continent.
There will be 2 centres used for the league, the Bauleshi and Lashibi AstroTurf pitches. The league is expected to kick off much later this month on April 22nd. Ure Kwampofo reporting for 3 Sports from the GFA Secretariat.
All right, now let's still stay in Ghana football, and this time in the women's edition, star midfielder Evelyn Bedu found the net for the Black Queens as they earned a 1-0 victory over Senegal earlier today in a friendly at the Accra Sports Stadium. Now it is their 2nd straight win over the Senegalese in the space of 3 days.
All red headed in his Adam Al Hassan to Suzy Dedete. A strike, and we finally get a goal in this game. And who else would be on target for you? The CAF. Suzy Dedete, her delivery was sumptuous. And look at how on the strike, Evelyn Bedu on target for Ghana.
All right, now let's go straight to Europe then, because the UEFA Champions League is up, this week, and already Bayern Munich are trailing against Manchester City in a game happening currently. Benfica also drawing 0-0 with Inter Milan. Those games half-time at the moment. But Real Madrid manager Carlo Ancelotti has stated that he hopes Frank Lampard
I'm sad, yes. I have a fantastic memory of this club, of the people that are still working there, and I am a supporter of Chelsea, of course, because I spent 2 years really nice there. Be back? No, I think that Lampard, I hope that Lampard is able to do a fantastic job with them.
Now the 2022-2023 regular season has come to a close, and 4 of the 8 first-round matchups are set. I'm talking about the NBA. The other 4 will be decided by the play-in tournament as the top 2 seeds in each conference. In this case, the Denver Nuggets and the Memphis Grizzlies in the West, Milwaukee Bucks and the Boston Celtics in the East. Wait to see who they will be facing.
Minnesota, and the first time in forever, they are above 500. What a game for Dennis, what a game for AD.
Now in the smashing sports tennis, world number 1 Novak Djokovic beat qualifier Ivan Garkov in his first match in more than a month to reach the 3rd round of the Monte Carlo Masters. Djokovic, who received a first-round bye, beat the Russian 7-6, 6-2. He had not played since match 3 when he lost to Daniil Medvedev in the Dubai Tennis Championships semi-finals. On that note, we're bringing into the sports here on News 360. My name is Thierry Nyan. Entertainment is next with Anita Ekufu.
Water is life. Water gives life. Water moves through nature in a never-ending cycle. Observe the beauty of water as it flows all around us, refreshing and restoring. Gaze in wonder at the stillness and beauty of nature. There's harmony in nature everywhere around. Water revitalizes the body and keeps you going strong. Water is life. Water gives life. Drink Awake Purified Drinking Water. One for life. So relax and unwind, and in the calmness of nature, find the rest you desire. For every bottle of Awake you buy, an amount to be donated to the National Cardiothoracic Center. This advert is said here.
Gino Magic Pepper and Onion. A delicious tomato mix with tomato, pepper, and onion. No grinding, no blending. Ya yen da da da. So pa mediane no abe. Come on, Gino, do your magic. And papa no kunu abefi.
Tasty magic.
And your daddy trying to kiss Keke.
Gino Magic Pepper and Onion. The magic that brings them home.
This advert is FDA approved.
Entertainment news segment is brought to you by Awake Purified Drinking Water and powered by 3 Entertainment.
Anita Ike-Akufo is here with entertainment, and I wonder why Parkwesi is silent.
No, we actually met today at the corridors. We had a long chat.
So you did your Nira there?
Yes, we did.
Okay,
yeah, we
so
did.
then you can take over, Anita.
All right, my name is Anita Ike-Akufo. In entertainment this evening, Ghanaian music duo Dope Nation's 2022 hit song, Boza, was nominated for the VGMA Best Afropop Song category, but the group say their song was put in the wrong category. They described the song as house music fused with Afrobeat and Amapiano. And Dope Nation wants the VGMA board to do proper research before assigning songs to the various categories.
So I was just checking the nominations for VGMA. You guys are in Best Afro-Pop Song of the Year for Boza. Would you describe Boza as an Afro-Pop song?
No, it's not. Like I said, it's house music fused with Afrobeat and then Amapiano. So when you give me a genre, I think you need to come and research into my music.
So that's what I'm saying. We need like producers, you know, who are young producers, who are experts, to go out into the studios.
To break down the genre. But why haven't you said anything about this? Because J-Bad, I mean, people raised objections and then he was taken out of that category.
When you come out and you say, you either sound arrogant,
you might be taking different.
But then we need to speak up.
Yes, no, but we need to understand it first. Take, for example, our music, we need to understand our music. The music is supposed to be spearheaded by producers. When it is spearheaded by a producer, the sound is clear. But we have people who are not even knowledgeable about music that are spearheading our music here. Please take South Africa for an example. Let's not talk about the Nigerians. Let's talk about South Africa. They are doing amazing things.
Price, yesterday price, no be today price. Hey, to the left, not to the right. Now lean back. You know the vibe.
Well, meanwhile, PRO for Charterhouse, Robert Kla, has reacted to the assertions made by Dope Nation earlier this morning on New Day. He believes Charterhouse needs to intensify the education on the operations and how they do things. He spoke to 3 Entertainment.
Pop is actually a fusion of music genres situated within the within Afro music. You know, so when they say it's made up of house and there's elements of Afro beats and there's Amapiano in there, yes, those are the things. That kind of fusion is what is also referred to as Afro pop under the scheme. So it's just a matter of them understanding how we describe certain things or our operational definitions for the various categories. I think that would have settled matters. As per the scheme, a fusion of this nature falls under the Afro-pop category. There's a guideline we work with, and that is where it falls under. One of the functions of the board and the team is classification. So what we do is that once a song comes through, it is classified under the category that is most appropriate for it. We had a window, so clearly it would have been good if Dope Nation had reached out with that particular concern if for them it wasn't too clear. I mean, there's no need for them to keep mute about it because this is something that we are doing together with artists and we need them to be able to understand that there are guidelines, and if for any reason they need a little bit of education on our guidelines, then we will have to do that. So.
Now, let's get into some comedy as Nigerian comedy superstar Basket Mouth treated fans to rip-cracking jokes at his Easter comedy show dubbed Basket Mouth Unprovoked. He got patrons in a packed venue laughing throughout his time on stage, sharing jokes about life, family, and personal experiences. Buchi, a Nigerian comedian as well, was phenomenal on the night as he got fans laughing their hearts out with his jokes. Held at the Accra International Conference Center, the event also featured some Ghanaian A-list comedians, including Foster Romanus, Alexi the Comic, and Obiang Ponsa, who delivered a great show. They also treated patrons to funny jokes and seized the opportunity to display superb originality and top-notch creativity.
From the age of 5, depending on where you grew up, all these things. But BNP, on the days that they didn't even have stories, they will cook up stories. They will cook up stories. You wake up Monday morning on the front page, BNP, that's the number there. Page 3. All by the paper, you open to page 3, caption, that's the number there, the start. Nana Ekia Wadama, a popular plumber in Asinfosu, also known as that's the number. Is there. The Ghanaian guys here, have you realized that Ghanaian girls are very difficult to please in bed? You give the woman gateway, all the things you know say you touch for woman body are for 10 on, but the lady know the 10. Oh, what I guess on girl be a kiss a girl not so. Come on, take kissing now. I said, Kwame. I said, then also ask you to show you.
And that'll be all for entertainment. My name is Anita Ekia Ekufu. Have a good evening.
Let's now take a look at what is happening on the international front. Nigeria's ruling party has asked the appeals court to dismiss a petition by third-placed candidate Peter Obi, who is challenging victory of President-elect Bola Tinubu following a disputed election in February. Labour Party's Peter Obi, who came third in the election, and second place the opposition People's Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar, last month separately challenged the result in court. The two candidates said the results were fraudulent, citing Tinubu, his ruling All Progressive Congress Party, and the Independent National Electoral Commission as respondents. In a countersuit on Tuesday, the APC said Obi's petition should be dismissed on several grounds, including that Obi was not a Labour Party member when he contested the elections and that he failed to include Atiku as a respondent, making his petition incompetent. Obi, who was Atiku's running mate in 2019, left the PDP in May last year to join the Labour Party. The APC is arguing that Obi was not yet a member when Labour Party submitted its members' register to the Electoral Commission as required by law. Tinubu is set to be sworn in end of May. President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has launched his ruling party's bid to stay in power as he seeks to extend his leadership of Turkey beyond 20 years. Erdogan is facing his stiffest challenge yet from 6 opposition parties who have combined forces for presidential and parliamentary elections on May 14. Turkey faces soaring inflation and is reeling from twin earthquakes that left 50,000 people dead. Any candidate that can't secure more than half the presidential vote is the outright winner. Failing that, the race goes to a runoff 2 weeks later.
Well, that's how we wrap up News 360. Came to you live from our studios here at Desawe in Kanda, Accra. For more news, just log on to our website, 3news.com. My name is Pa Kwesi Asare.
And I am Aisha Yakubu Khalid. Good evening.
This